Hunting for that magical genie with piles of cash? Join Candace and her guests as they uncover financial secrets, have a laugh at past mistakes, and savor financial rebounds. Thank you for listening. Let's dive in and do something today that your future self will thank you for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Money Flow Genie podcast. I'm here to speak with you today about what have we learned so far since I started this podcast. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on is that there is a common theme that goes through anyone's financial journey. It doesn't matter where you are, there's a common theme that financial independence requires some risk, but you can do it from a strategic way that you can control some of those risks. You have to break free from traditional financial constraints. Anyone, regardless of your background, can achieve financial freedom, but you have to master cash flow. That's a key principle right there. Shifting your mindset to master your cash flow, and you're going to make informed decisions and sometimes make some bold financial moves. Whenever we do something different, it always feels bigger than what it really is. And when we think about our lives, like for instance, when we first learned how to ride a bicycle, most people have ridden a bicycle sometime in their life, and they've had to learn how to do that. Now, when you first got on that bicycle, if you can remember that feeling, it was scary. It was like, how am I going to keep my balance? How am I going to do this? And you probably had somebody there guiding you and holding on to the back of the bicycle or training wheels on it to get you moving forward. So now let's fast forward that to present day. What does that have to do with financial freedom? Think of training wheels as mentorship, education, learning from those that are actually doing what it is that you want to try to do. Now, it's really important that you listen to people that are actually participating in whatever financial endeavor that you want to do. Don't listen to the neighbor that knows the neighbor that knows the neighbor. Don't listen to the person that's friends with someone, because if they haven't experienced it, they certainly will not be able to tell you some of the nuances. And more than likely, they'll be presenting their own fears upon you, and with the best of intentions. When I first went into real estate as an investment, my first fix and flip. And when I bought that property, oh my gosh, so many people, oh, you're not going to want to do that. Oh, why did you do that? And then they started telling me the horror stories. No one said, hey, this is really cool. Congratulations for doing something different. They just put me in a place of just amplifying my fear. And when I was in it at the moment, I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? Is this really going to work out? I finally had to just stop talking to those people about that project. I just couldn't do it. Then I happened to be at a meeting and mentioned that I was working on this project of this house that I had purchased. And those people said, oh my gosh, that's so great. This is what we do for a living. And they actually did Section 8 housing. And they were so kind and so just thoughtful. The next time I came to a meeting, they showed up and they brought me a book about it, the way that they do it and how they learned. Talk about like the universe providing and synchronicity. So line up with people that are doing what it is that you're doing. There's so much out there now because of Facebook and any type of internet. Even you can go up on meetups and you can search in meetup.com. Not that I'm trying to endorse anything, but it's one particular group platform that I know of that you can go in and you can basically type in anything from ukulele lessons to ukulele groups to people that want to talk about bugs. You name it, you can find people that are like-minded. And that's where you're going to find your groups of people that you can learn from. You don't necessarily have to pay someone an extraordinary amount of money in order to make changes in your life and the financial future. Now, I will say there are some people that do provide some serious educational tools that it would at some point, when you can afford it, and let me say that, when you can afford it to go ahead and join some of those mentorships. But investigate those people. Find out maybe if you can even join up somewhere where somebody is already a part of that group, that you can talk to them and say, hey, what is it like? Are you really getting the education that you've been promised? I've signed up for a lot of groups that are really great. I learned a lot of data, a lot of how-tos, but the biggest thing about doing anything new is implementation. So now let's go back to the bicycle. So you're on the bicycle, the training wheels, they're catching you from back and forth. So the training wheels on the bicycle, or the person, if you didn't have training wheels, is keeping the balance and keeping you moving slowly forward. But you'll notice when you're riding a bicycle, the faster you pedal, the easier you're able to obtain and feel the balance because you don't have the gravity just like pulling at you. Now, I don't have to get all scientific about this, but if you think about it, the slower you move, the more likely you are to fall. And what do I mean by that when it comes to, say, real estate investing or private money lending? Why the slower you move? I'm not saying select your investments carefully, but I'm saying careful how quickly you can get caught up in your busy work. What does that look like? Well, of course, you need education if you're doing something new. So start educating yourself, but understand there is a cap. There's only so much you can learn about something without implementation. Implementation is key to doing something new. And if you're doing nothing but learning and not implementing, it's entertainment. You're purely entertaining yourself. Don't live in the fantasy world. We're taught so many times that we can just live in this fantasy world. So when you're riding your bicycle, let's go back to that analogy. You're moving forward. You start to move faster. Okay, so you've got your education to training wheels. Now you're pedaling, you're taking that information and you're processing it. Now you're moving momentum forward. What does that mean? You're looking for deals, you're looking for ways to implement the strategies that you've learned about. You're getting momentum, you're taking courses, you're listening to other people, you're investigating private money lenders. Who could you possibly lend private money to? So these are the types of ways that you're building momentum. Now, the biggest thing is when the training wheels come off, the person lets go of the back of your bicycle. You are riding because you have implemented your plan, your strategy. You've actually signed paperwork. You've committed to maybe your first deal, your first piece of real estate. Now, what happens when someone lets go of the bicycle and you start riding? I'm not trying to scare you, but you will experience things that will feel like your first fall on your bicycle. It might be jarring. It's like, whoa, because there is endorphins that kick in when we succeed and move forward. There's excitement, there's enthusiasm, just like when riding a bicycle. Off we go. And we are just like zooming around, we're playing with the balance. And that's exactly what you're going to do on your financial journey. So think about that. You have ridden a bicycle. Really? It doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you think about it in reality, look what you did with your body. You were able to overcome gravity, got your balance, put your body on two wheels. Some people ride on one. There's all sorts of things that you could do on a bicycle. The same thing with your financial journey. It all changes by having a mindset shift that you can do it, that you can let go, you can take off the training wheels, and you have to implement it. And know that no matter how much you try to prepare yourself, you're going to crash a little bit. You don't have to completely crash and burn, although it can happen. But you want to put things and strategies in place so that you are diversified, so to speak, in your portfolio. So when you're driving that bicycle for the first time, you're not going to immediately try to ride across a really soft sandy beach. That's just setting yourself up for disaster because the wheels are going to sink and you're going to fall over. Now, granted, it'll be on a soft spot, but you're not going to go anywhere. So that's where the implementation of the education and surrounding yourself with people that are doing like-minded things. Another tip that I want to give you is that get in a room of people that are going further than you are. And why do I say that? It's really easy and very comfortable to be the big fish in a little pond. And what do I mean by that? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay at the level of the people that surround you. So if you're the smartest person in the room, in order to be a part of, eventually you're going to start compromising your values and you're going to start chipping yourself down and you're going to become the people that you surround yourself with. Now, I'm not saying give up family. I'm not saying any of that. You need to bring people in your life that challenge you and that know more than you do and are exceeding at a faster pace than you are. Why? Because you will pay attention, you will be challenged, and we tend to be very much like the people that we surround ourselves with. So by doing so, before you know it, you are stepping into that next chapter in your life. That's a really wonderful place to be, where you're advancing and you're moving forward and you focus on different things. Other things become important to you. Binge watching on Netflix doesn't seem to appeal to you much anymore. You have better things to do with your time. Now, I'm not saying that we don't all need to just veg out every now and then, but not every day. Because in order to move forward and learn something new, you're going to have to give up something a little bit at a time. Now, how do we do that? The implementations of these things can simply be within 10 minutes a day. Everybody's got 10 minutes in a day. To be able to do this, you can implement 10 minutes a day towards educating yourself, researching. I'm just going to use real estate as an example, researching homes. You could go on to the internet and you can look for different ways to invest your capital. If you have an IRA or 401k that's not performing well and you're coming up on your retirement, you have to think, what am I going to do? How can I speed this process up? There are ways to go about doing this. And I'm going to have an episode about how you can take a self-directed IRA and you can actually speed that up. And that's simply about becoming a private money lender. And that's where I want to start taking you in this podcast, is thinking about how can I increase my net worth, which is owning real estate? How can I increase my bank account and have that money moving at a momentum where I'm not having to work in exchange for that? That is how you make wealth. Having ordinary income, which is the income that comes from a W-2 job, you're being taxed heavily on that. Social Security, Medicaid, state tax, there's a lot of tax on it. The tax bracket percentage is higher. So with a passive income investment, and passive would be something like private money lending, you would be making interest income off of money that you have. And with that, you're taxed at a lower tax bracket. So you're actually putting money in your pocket just by making a choice in a different type of investment. Investment meaning your time as well. So I've given you a lot to think about in this. And so I just want to have a quick summary of where we've been in the Money Flow Genie so far. It's talking about independence and strategic risk taking, breaking free from financial constraints, and regardless of your age and your background. If you want to go back and listen to various episodes, we talk about your mindset with Julie Holly, and your net worth equals your self-worth. You can go back to Tima Barros and Julianne Peterson, Mandy McAllister, showing that financial freedom is achievable outside the traditional W-2 employment. You can also think that your W-2 job is going to be with your pension plan, which most people don't have anymore. That these types of ways of making money, sure, they pay the bills right now, but you're not going to be able to stay in that for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that retirement means just do nothing, because you need to activate your brain. So perhaps your financial strategies will be your next quote unquote job, just to manage that. Doesn't take that much time once you learn a few strategies. And listen, you only need three. You don't need to know everything. You just need to diversify. So if one is having a little problems, let's say you are a landlord and you have a tenant or two, if you have problems with that, you've got other income that's coming in case you have problems with that. So there's all sorts of ways, the house hacking, which is basically having roommates in my era of life. I love how everything gets reinvented in the terms. So house hacking is basically having roommates. You can, and private money lending, I'm going to really be emphasizing more and more is that if you look around you, what businesses are really making the most money? It's banking. So banking, institutional banking, you can do this type of banking. You can have your own family bank, just like the Rockefellers. There are families that have had over long periods of time, generations, continue to have their generational wealth. Now, why do they keep that? It's because they implement what's called a family bank. And I'm going to have in the next episode, I'm going to talk about what is a family bank? How can you implement that? And what does that look like? That's going to require discipline. But I'll tell you, look at the family, the Rockefeller family. They've even written books about it. The reason why they're able to keep their money generation after generation is because they have their own internal banking system. Yes. You can do that too. You could be making $50,000 or less a year and have your own internal banking system. Requires discipline, but with that, oh my gosh, you would be amazed at how quickly your own checkbook, your own bank account, your own family will start to create generational wealth. You will see the potential in that. And I'm going to have an episode in teaching you how to do that. Now, granted, I'm just teaching you from my experience, but I will tell you this. If you implement this and educate yourself, you will see some difference in your life, in your financial freedom date, and your definition of what financial freedom is. So with all of this, I would just like to empower you to continue taking in as much knowledge as you possibly can. And I'm going to conclude this episode with reminding you that you are your own genie in a bottle. So let's start moving forward and thinking about ways that we can create financial freedom in a faster way, an easier way, without so much implementation of our time. There will always be an upfront learning curve that will require our time. And the best time to start is now, not when the economy shifts, not when you think I will do it next week, because next week sometimes never comes. And the other aspect to think about with that is that it's our lives are so busy right now. It's really hard to think about where am I going to find the time to sit down and do this? So that's why I'm going to start talking about implementing segments of time. There's a technique called time blocking. Sometimes my brain just can't wrap around that, but it does help a lot. And I just make habitual changes. For instance, and I'll end with this. I've been working on a sculpture for a long time where I've been making these little handmade beads. And with those, it's thousands of beads. And if I were to sit down and do that all day long, first of all, my hands would be tired from making these beads because I'm making them out of clay. But the other aspect of it, it would just be not so rewarding. When I do it in small bits and pieces and little implementation, I feel like I have achieved so much. I totally enjoy it. My hands aren't raw. And when I look back, I've been doing this sculpture, and it's going to take a little bit more time. I've been doing this sculpture 10 minutes a day. And then some weeks I can only get into my studio, only 10 minutes every 2 weeks. Do you know I'm 3/4 of the way done on the sculpture? That's how quickly it builds up. You can do this in any aspect of your life. If you don't want to do it, implement it and see how it works financially, then implement it in doing something around the house, a project, anything that you've been putting off. Break it down into 10-minute segments. And you would be amazed when you look back, 10 minutes plus 10 minutes plus 10 minutes plus 10 minutes. Wow, that adds up and it makes a big difference. And try doing it in something that you can physically see the difference. Psychological stuff, when we do implementation, sometimes we need to be able to see instantaneous results. So try it in something that you can tangibly see the difference. And with that, you will be able to say, hey, if I did it there, I can do it here. Same thing, learn how to ride a bicycle. You can do it in your financial world as well. So I'm here to help support you. Even if we don't have a conversation, let's do it together and we're going to get there. And I will continue to share my experience, strength, and hope, and bring in other people that are also achieving the same results as I am. So again, be your own genie in the bottle. Let's make a change. And remember, do a little self-praise showcase today for yourself. Today, my self-praise showcase is doing the implementation of 10 minutes a day on my sculpture that I really want to finish. And I am so happy that I have implemented that. More to be revealed on that one. So let's join together and continue on this journey. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this helped you, and I'll see you next time.
The info in this podcast is straight from our personal experiences. You alone possess the power to manifest your desires. You are the genie in the bottle, awaiting your command. So ask smart questions. We're not licensed financial pros, so be sure to consult with a licensed professional, attorney, or tax consultant.